Hello and welcome to the June edition of Mytech U. My name is Nate Austin. I'll be moderating the presentation today, and we are joined by Dave James, who's going to present us with our Mytech U discussion titled, "You Don't Want That Puppy, It's Damaged Goods." So interesting title. It'll be about culture and some of the lessons learned and some of the methods we've found successful in our organization. And we love sharing this because that's how we learned about it, and that's how it had an impact on our culture. And this is one of the best tools we've ever found to really not just learn about people's personalities, but for people to adopt it and use it. So I'm very excited to share this with you and to introduce Dave James, who will lead us through the presentation about You Don't Want That Puppy, It's Damaged Goods. So Dave, tell us a little bit about yourself and what we're going to talk about today.
Hi there, Nathan Austin. Can you hear me okay? Just double checking.
Yeah, everything's great.
Awesome. Good. Thanks so much for inviting me this morning. I've been looking forward to doing this presentation for a while, and welcome to all of you who are listening in. Those of you who haven't heard me speak about this concept called Make a Difference, the book, I'm going to share a little bit more about that book with you, but those of you who have heard me talk about this know that I'm passionate about it, and it's a really significant part of our culture here at Mytech Partners. We use a number of tools here to help with our inter-office communication and the communication we employ with all of our clients as well, and Make a Difference is an element of that. So I believe that right now you're all able to see pictures of 4 animal types. That is what Make a Difference is about. But before we get into that, just for those of you who aren't familiar, I think probably most of you know what Mytech is about, but just for the sake of reviewing, Mytech Partners is a managed service and IT service provider. We were founded in the year 2000. We have a staff of give or take 100. We have offices, our headquarters are here in New Brighton, Minnesota. We have offices in southern Minnesota and also out in Denver, Colorado. Proud to say we've been elected by our own employees as one of the top 100 best companies. There's a publication here in Minneapolis that does a event every year where they elect some of the best companies in the cities to work for, and I'm proud to say Mytech's been one of those cities year after year. A little about me, I'm one of the co-founders of Mytech, but the hat I wear during the day and is about business development. I spend my time working with new clients and with existing clients as an account manager. I tend to focus on financial services, or what I call the professional service group. So really this is financial service, healthcare, in some cases manufacturing, but particularly organizations that have compliance-related concerns. I'm really good at talking through some of those obligations that professional services organizations have to deal with. My own background is in liberal arts. I didn't grow up to be, nobody ever thought I'd grow up to be working for a technical or an IT company. I have a degree in classic English literature. I can quote Shakespeare if you need me to. So it's my being here at Mytech is the source of never-ending amusement among my peers. But you know, that's given me, my background in liberal arts has kind of given me an interesting perspective that is a little different than some of my more technical colleagues. So I think of myself, it's not an official title, but I think of myself as a sort of a guardian of our culture. We have a number of initiatives here at Mytech that help develop and maintain and our culture. I'm part of that initiative, just one part of it. We have an employee, a group of our staff here who are volunteer their time to make sure our culture is where it needs to be. So, but I like to focus on the customer experience, and by that I actually mean our experience with our clients and the experience that our internal customers have. That is our own staff. More about that in a little bit. About this webinar, You Don't Want That Puppy, It's Damaged Goods. I clearly, as Nathan noted, I like to come up with creative titles that perhaps gets people's attention, captures people's attention. But what this webinar is really about is about a book. The book is called Make a Difference. Make a difference in the lives of those you love, live, and lead. The author is Dr. Larry Little. A little quick background as to how we came to know Dr. Little. Some some of us from Mytech were at a conference several years ago when we heard Dr. Little speak about this book. We didn't even know he was on the agenda, but I remember we all looked at each other and thought, oh my goodness, that's just awesome. We need to roll out this concept in our own organization. At the time, we were a smaller business, probably 15, 20 people, and we were just starting to experience some of that typical communication dysfunction that might happen as you start to, have departments and different people in charge of different things and managers and different staff all are, keeping the eye on their own ball, and sometimes we were seeing some miscommunication. So we thought Make a Difference might be a way to overcome that. So a little about the puppy. The reason I named it that, there's a story that Dr. Little tells, and I love to relate this story about a little boy who finds himself in a pet store one day, and he is completely captivated by this little puppy that he sees, and he decides he must absolutely have this puppy. He goes home, he spends the next week or two mowing yards and selling Kool-Aid out on the curb and doing whatever he can to raise enough money to go back to the pet store and purchase this puppy. And he finally saves enough money. I'm going to share. I have found when I do this presentation in front of people, one of the fastest ways to capture their attention is to show cute puppies. So I'll just show these slides while I'm telling you the story. So he goes back to the store and he's ready to buy the puppy, and he goes back and the clerk says, well, which puppy do you want? And he identifies the puppy that he had seen the week before, and he picks it up and he takes it up to the counter and he says, here's the puppy, here's the money. And the clerk looks at the puppy, and the clerk looks at this is an amusing one here, the clerk looks at the little boy and says, oh, son, you don't want that puppy, it's damaged goods. And the boy looks at him like, what do you mean? He says, well, that dog is crippled, and you don't want a crippled dog. And the little boy, with a lot of confidence, looks back at the clerk and basically says, by the way, this puppy doesn't look so cute, huh? The little boy looks back at the clerk and says, no, this is exactly the puppy I wanted. So finally the clerk kind of leans over the counter, and he realizes the little boy actually has a leg injury and is crippled himself. I love this story. I'm probably not doing Dr. Little justice in telling the story, but the idea there is, aren't we all crippled? Don't we all have weaknesses that we have to overcome? And I think as a business, communication is one of those weaknesses. Very difficult to make sure that communication works. And the idea with Make a Difference, as you see here, Make a Difference has been presented all over the world. Dr. Little has offices down in Huntsville, Alabama. I always want to make sure and give him, make sure that everyone knows that I didn't write the book. I've gone down and trained with Dr. Little. I'm credentialed to speak as a proxy on Dr. Little's behalf. But the concepts and the thought process and all the things that Dr. Little talk about are his and his alone. So I want to make sure and give him credit where credit is due. So it's about communication, right? It's about people being able to talk to each other. This is a photo of my parents. Another demonstration in my own life of how communication can either work well or not. I love to show this picture because whenever I show it to people, they're always like, is that an RPG? But no, it's a telescope. My mom was a physics professor, and my dad was an author. Those two people couldn't have been more different, but yet I grew up in a wonderful family, and my mom was very sort of Mr. Spock-like, very logical, and my dad couldn't be more opposite, just very creative. I've used the words, my dad was a colors person, my mom was a numbers person. Come up with whatever description you prefer, but the idea there is that mom needed to stick to the details. She wanted logic. Her bank account needed to reconcile. The numbers had to balance. My dad, on the other hand, happiness for him was found in blissful moments of creativity that my mom simply didn't understand. So But yet they found a way to communicate. Two very different people that process information very differently, but yet they had this excellent way of communicating. And one could argue kind of easy when you have two people, although I think a lot of people in relationships will tell you that it does take some work. So imagine applying that work to an entire organization. Dr. Little believes that it's the most important part of an organization, and his book, Make a Difference, is devoted to finding ways to overcome that. So, make a difference. The primary concept in this book is based on a myth. The myth is that we sort of believe that whatever we think, everybody else must think as well. The official way Dr. Little describes it is we believe that everyone shares the same value views that we do. So an example of that, I have a colleague here who loves to work and work and work. Some would call him a workaholic, but it's what makes him happy. He puts in 18-hour days sometimes. I've seen him work all weekend. It's just what drives him. And I've also seen him demonstrate that he sort of doesn't understand why other people don't want to work 18-hour days or 18-hour weekends. So that's an example of a man who works 18-hour days kind of presumes that everybody around him must also want to work 18-hour days, and that is, of course, a myth. And you can start to see how communication in a relationship, whether it's one-on-one or with your entire team of people in your workplace, how that could cause some problems. So the book moves forward from the myth part, and what it's really trying to accomplish is helping us how to understand how to validate people in our lives. Dr. Little talks a lot about how we are all leaders. No matter what our life path is, doesn't matter if we're at work or at home or at church, in a peer group, at the shopping mall. We all, by our actions and the things we say, the look in our eye, and just the way we treat other people and the way we listen to other people, we have the opportunity to make a difference. We have the opportunity to, be good listeners and help those around us be more successful too. And it's not necessarily just about leaders or managers in an organization. It's just we all, when we talk to someone, we have the opportunity to lead those people. Now, in an organizational context, when you have a staff of 100 or 1,000 or 5,000, the secret to success in that organization is about diversity. And Dr. Little believes that, for the most part, we all do a pretty horrible job of taking advantage of the incredible diversity that we all have right at our fingertips. When I do this presentation for our own staff, and sometimes I go out and do it for some of our clients, and I have other people ask me to do a presentation in front of their organization as well. There's a moment when I do this interactive exercise where I have everybody stand up, and we get in a line around the room, and I have them, I actually ask them to talk to each other and identify how much work experience do you have in years. And that accomplishes a couple of things. It gets people up and moving around, and they have to talk to each other and figure it out. That's part of the strategy there. And there's chaos, and eventually people do find themselves in a line. Usually it's all the way around the room, and I'll tell people the people with the least amount of years over here on the left side of the room, people with the most amount of years over on the other side of the room. So you get this big line, and then you add up all the years of experience. I have each person, declare I have 6 years, I have 1 year, I have 42 years, whatever it is. And it's incredible. I've had results on those occasions of anything from 872 years to I think we did a group at our TechPulse event we did a group once, and I had something like 2,676 years. It was like, 80-some people in the room. So what happens at that point when you start to get people lined up, you realize, oh my gosh, we've got people who have 1 year of experience. We've got millennials who are just entering the workplace. We've got people who are more seasoned and have worked for many years. And it's very tempting for people who have worked all those years to presume that that millennial, who may have only worked 1 or 5 years, can't possibly contribute much to our organization. And that is something that Dr. Little passionately believes is just simply not true. So the idea of the book is to learn more about our own personality so that we can be better at communicating with everyone else's personality. So in order to do that, there's a quiz that I give people. I'm going to show it to you here in a little bit. There's a quiz that I give to people that basically reviews, asks you a few questions, and through that test you're able to identify what personality you are. Now, a little bit about that. Dr. Little is a therapist and a business consultant by nature, and he does talk about all the other personality tests that are out there, most of which are really good at what they do, like Meyers-Briggs. It's exceptional, Lean's awesome. There's a bunch of them. And they're all good, but I think they're all kind of technical. They tend to result in some not very easy to remember result. So when people leave the room or move on with their lives, they kind of start forgetting what they learned or how to apply that in their regular life. So Dr. Little simply believes that it should be quite a bit simpler, and he just believes that people are really good at remembering images. So here's how it works for him. He believes that people break into 4 categories basically, and they're animal types. So if we think about animals, we're able to pretty quickly just kind of remember what a personality is of that animal. So Dr. Little believes that people are either lions, monkeys, camels, or turtles. He chose those 4 animals deliberately: lions, monkeys, camels, or turtles. So let's walk through each one of those animal types. The test that I give when I do these presentations for, in front of people takes about 5 minutes to do the test, and it's really fun seeing people's face light up when they realize they're a lion or a monkey or a camel or a turtle. So here's some of the nuts and bolts of the first animal. Let's talk about monkeys. So think about monkeys in the wild, right? When we think about monkeys, they're always loud and very often, swinging from trees, throwing things at each other, always in big, giant groups. In the book, Dr. Little talks about how the animal types are broken up into 2 categories. There's either task-oriented animal types or people-driven animal types. So when you think about people in your organization, which ones are more social and people-oriented, and which ones are more just get down to the nitty-gritty of the tasks? Monkeys fall in that social, we love people categories. They're fun-loving, very people-oriented, also easily rejected. If a monkey is walking down the hall of a business and someone either just glares at them or says something like, "That's a really ugly shirt," monkeys are capable of taking that comment and spinning it into a much more ridiculous, probably imagined rejection. Like, what? Wait, you're telling me I don't know how to dress? You're telling me my mom didn't teach me how to pick out clothes? And so that's meant to be a amusing example, but if you're working on a project and you're working with a monkey, you have to be careful how you communicate with that monkey so that he or she doesn't feel rejected. Monkeys are also very unorganized, like my desk right now. If you could see, I've been working on this presentation this morning, but I have papers kind of scattered around here in my office, and you'll see that when we get to some of the other animal types that their desks look very different. A little bit more about monkeys. Just some kind of facts and figures about monkeys. I love to be around people, love to have a good time, love to party and laugh and tell stories. How many of you can recall or think of people that you work with when, on a Monday morning, they just have to spend a little time talking about what they did over the weekend? I'm one of those people. I'm a monkey, by the way. A monkey camel, camel monkey. I kind of tilt into either one of those categories depending on what I'm doing or who I'm talking to. But a monkey can be really good at someone, say, wasting time telling stories, or just talking too much, or just spending too much energy sharing some story that people really don't care about. I've had clients years later say, gosh, I almost decided not to work with you, Day James, because I don't care about where you went to school or that story you shared with me. Monkeys are loud and noisy. You can almost always hear a monkey before you see him coming. We have somebody here in our office who is 3 or 4 doors down from me, and I can always hear him on the phone. Everybody can. But the good part is monkeys just love and yearn and crave to be around people. Monkeys are really important to an organization because they have an excellent sense of just what's the vibe. If there's some stress in the air or some unspoken stuff going on, almost always monkeys are able to just pick that up. It's pretty remarkable. If you're in a relationship with a monkey, there's some things you can do to validate that monkey's existence in your world. And that's what the book Make a Difference talks about, is how to identify what animal type your personality is. Here's some characteristics of that animal type. And what do you need to do to communicate correctly with that animal type so that it's an effective conversation. So in a professional context, think about it if you're on a team or a project team with a monkey. These are the things you need to do to make sure that you're going to have an effective meeting with that monkey. So you validate a monkey through eye contact, words, and touch, all very social aspects of communication. The quickest way to destroy a relationship with a monkey is to give consistent negative feedback to him or her. And what I mean by that is monkeys need to know that you value them as a human being. So if you say to a monkey something like, great job on that project, sounds good. And if you're task-oriented, that kind of makes sense. But what a monkey really needs to hear is, man, you did a great job on that project. I don't know what I would do without you here. You are really valuable to this organization. So you have to learn how to sort of massage whatever your message is in a way that helps a monkey understand he's valued. Monkeys are great with people skills. They will not tolerate people who make them feel guilty, ashamed, or devalued. That will just destroy a relationship with a monkey. Because of their sensitivity, monkeys will distance themselves from those people. If you're talking to a monkey, some key things that you need to do. You validate by approving, as I said, him or her as a person. Don't focus so much on the task as you would the human being in them. If you're going to criticize, be careful to communicate that you're disapproving the issue, not the person. Conversations with monkeys can be playful. Appreciate their humor. Touch is important. Let's move on and talk about competent camel. Camels are task-oriented. Remember how I said animal types are either people or task? So camels are logical. Camels are, when you think about a camel, meticulously, walks across the desert and doesn't get sidetracked by anything. So in the context of us human beings, camels are logical and quality-oriented, critical, moody sometimes. Camels are perfectionists. they very often have lists that they really need to focus on. Like the Camel and me, if you could see my whiteboard right here, I have little check boxes next to all the various tasks. Because they're so such a perfectionist in terms of getting tasks done, they often, Dr. Little talks about how among the 4 animal types, camels are most often the ones who perhaps suffer from some depression in their lives. Camels are detail-oriented. If they were painting, tend to paint with a little brush. For a camel, really, how you get there is more important than the end result. So in a business environment, it's the process. Camels are really excellent, systematic thought process leaders. If you're in a relationship with a camel, you validate by focusing on the quality of the task, exactly the opposite of what I just said about monkeys. Quickest way to destroy a relationship is to withdraw all structure. Camels need to have that structure. So if a camel and a monkey are sitting down at a table together, you'll see the monkey, perhaps papers strewn around. Camels will come in with a perfectly stacked, there'll be an agenda, and the pencil or pen will be perfectly organized right on top of the pile, and you can see how those two people might irritate each other if they don't know how to negotiate some of that. So you can't fly by the seat of your pants with a camel. When you talk to a camel, always be prepared. If you're a monkey, you got to suspend your monkeyness and have your act together. Be ready to answer multiple questions. Camels want details. Emphasize the quality of the task. I love these slides right here. I'll just speed through. This is, again, if you had a camel and a monkey on a team together, here's how a camel might view a monkey. That monkey, if they're bad at communicating with each other. Alternatively, here's how a monkey might view a camel. So you can see it can go sideways pretty quickly. So that leaves 2 animal types. Let's talk
Dave,
about
if I may interject really quick, just because one, I just love digging into these details, and I appreciate that this is probably the 10th or 12th time I've heard this type of content. And I always pick something new or learn something out of it, and just relate it to an experience. You're about to learn about one of the types, which is the last one you're going to learn about is lion, and I'm a lion camel personally. And one of the things that with regard to camels, sometimes it's getting when we have some extreme camels in our organization and that are great, and sometimes the challenge is a lion is just wanting to move forward, but a camel sometimes can get really lost in the details. Sometimes a lion doesn't pay enough attention to those details, but that's also where it can help, from a balance perspective, and like helping. Because sometimes people have probably heard of like paralysis by analysis. You're just analyzing. You want it to be perfect, but then there's no momentum. You don't get moving, right? Momentum over perfection is another cliche that's heard in the business world, and so this is where camels are very helpful to make sure that we pay attention to those details, but balancing it with other personalities to keep it moving. So those are some of the challenges that I know that from a camel perspective that I really appreciate the value that the camel bring. But it's also we have to balance each other out and make sure that because we can't all hit the pause button and make everything perfect and try and go, because there's no such thing as getting perfect, right? So
yeah, you're absolutely right, Nathan. Dr. Little talks a lot about, again, that's about the diversity in an organization, and we have to turn these personality traits into assets as opposed to liabilities. Camels are integral in our industry, the IT industry. We have more camels here at Mytech than any other animal type because there's a lot of details in what we have to do. Thank you for offering that, though. The tranquil turtle, as Dr. Little calls turtles, tranquil because they're calm and peaceful usually. They're also very wise. Some people would think that a turtle is unmotivated or tends to procrastinate. Not exactly true. In fact, Dr. Little talks quite a bit about how turtles might very possibly be the most valuable animal type in an organization because they are quiet and they tend to actually listen to all that's happening around them. So as Nathan said, we're going to get to a lion here in a moment, but if you've got a lion and a monkey laughing and lion roaring and a camel rattling off details, the poor turtle, who tends to be kind of quiet, might feel overwhelmed. So it's really easy to overlook the value of a turtle, but Dr. Lowe believes they're exceptionally valuable because they actually hear things that other people might not take the time to hear. So if monkeys are people-driven, turtles are in that same category, except it's more about person-driven, individual, interpersonal relationships. Turtles tend to have a group of one or two confidants or friends. They're laid back and easygoing. They really value those one-on-one relationships. They don't like the spotlight at all. I can think of times we have a number of turtles here, Nathan, who when they are asked to do a presentation in front of a group, you can literally see them physically like back up against the wall, or they'll stumble in their words because they're just a little shy about being in front of the group. They don't like that at all. How to validate a turtle. It's all about that one-on-one interpersonal relationship. How to destroy a relationship with a turtle and create an environment of conflict and chaos and strife. So you can see how the other animal personalities, all of which at any given time could be noisy for one reason or another, can cause a lot of strife for a turtle. The equivalent, especially, I saved the lion for last because perhaps the most interesting. Lions have a tendency to just want to extract information from staff no matter what, no matter which way, just it's about getting the task done. And so what do you think a lion would do, speaking anecdotally? Tap on that turtle shell to try to get the information out of a turtle. And what do you think happens when you tap on a turtle shell? Nothing. The turtle retracts its head into the shell, and you're not going to get anything out of them. Turtles won't tolerate being rushed. So you got to just spend some time listening to a turtle. So if you're in a meeting with a turtle, be patient, offer some moments of peace and quiet, and the turtle will not let you down. A few tips about how to actually talk to a turtle. Turtles are not very verbal, so silence and space make a big difference. And try to, be a turtle in those moments. Park your monkeyness or whatever noisiness exists in your personality. Take the time to listen to the turtles in your organization or in your life. You can guide a turtle to overcome the tendency to procrastinate by giving timelines with accountability built in. I'm definitely not saying, oh, just let turtles do whatever they want. If it takes them 6 months to get something done, that's fine. Definitely not saying that. But you have to help turtles, give them some guardrails to for the journey, so they know when they have to get stuff done. The validation comes from the relationship, pure and simple. I think we're ready for lions here. So yeah, Nathan Austin, our host here, is a lion.
Yeah, and Dave, if I may, before you move on to lion, only comment I want to make is that around turtles is because my wife's a turtle, and just to validate some of the things.
I didn't realize.
Oh yeah, yeah, Shayna's a turtle. Yeah, and so she. When you said that how they don't like the limelight, they don't like to be, for our wedding, she was petrified about walking down the aisle. She was afraid all eyes were going to be on her. Yeah. She was afraid she was going to trip. She was just afraid of just anything like happening because everyone was looking at her. So she didn't she was very nervous about. I hope it wasn't nervousness about meeting me at the end of that aisle, but she doesn't like that. And but it's interesting how, and the other thing about that you mentioned about how turtles like silence and quiet time is that, we even use this in our relationship. And, there are times if our life has been where we're just busy and moving and going, she'll even tell me, she's like, hey, I need some turtle time. She'll actually say that.
No kidding. Awesome.
Yeah, she'll actually say that. And and I know that means she just needs some quiet time to just, be alone, or just like watch one of her favorite shows, or just something like that, and just needs some quiet. And so this is something that's really been beneficial in my relationship with Shayna's understanding. We use this language in our relationship, and it's great. And the last thing that I'll say about turtles is that because they're so person-oriented and relationship-driven, you usually don't get to see the full extent of a turtle's personality until you've built that relationship. And so, but that you've built the relationship and that rapport and that trust with that turtle when you get to see it, right? And if you are if you're welcomed into their shell, so to speak, into their world, you know that that turtle has entrusted their vulnerability to some extent to you. And so that's one of the favorite things that I've learned about turtles is to working to develop that rapport where they're not just so shy around you anymore. They actually, you actually see the greater extent of their personality that doesn't really come to shine until they trust you, and you've got a relationship with them. So,
and we have some turtles here in our office who I think demonstrate exactly what you just talked about. Like over time, as they've demonstrated excellence in a project or a task, they've become less turtle-like because they trust the environment here in our workplace, and that's all about, that kind of goes back to the value of culture, how Make a Difference enhances that culture. And Nathan, you're a lion, so I can appreciate that story very much. It's of all the animal personalities, it's most difficult for lions to suspend their personality traits. Lions are really focused. Very just what motivates a lion is getting the task done. So in the enthusiasm to do that, sometimes they can seem insensitive. People think lions are workaholics, but it's not the workaholic. The workaholism, that a word, is that only exists as a tool to get the task. It's all about getting the task done. They're big task people. Remember how I talked about how camels are little task, detail-oriented? So if camels paint with a little detail brush, if you were painting a room, lions would be painting with a big giant roller. So business leaders, entrepreneurs, you know, people who are responsible for these giant, amazing, visionary things are very often lions. Like Steve Jobs, I'm sure, was a lion. It's not unusual for those people to be lions. But lions need all the other animal types, otherwise they're just lost. Lions are, remember that movie Up, where it was like the squirrel, where you get so easily sidetracked. And so lions are always thinking about what's the next best thing, and so it's not unusual for a lion to come in one day and the next day have some totally new project that they want people to work on. So yeah, flying at 30,000 feet. Relationships with lions, you have to validate a lion through empowering. Lions just want to finish the task. If you want to destroy a relationship with a lion, attack his or her ego. Lions are completely 100% sure whatever it is they think, whatever process it is they're imagining, absolutely is the right way to do it. And so you have to be careful about how you approach critiquing a lion, because they'll interpret that as a personal attack on their own ego. They won't invest in you if you devalue their ability to succeed. That's what they're most proud of. And then to talk to a lion, just be strong. You got. I know that the lions here in my own organization, you got to stand up to them. I'm not saying get in an argument with them, although I would say there's a couple of us here in the organization. They actually do respect that. They want you to go nose to nose on things sometimes. I don't know, Nate, if you want to comment about that, but they don't necessarily overload details, although I know at least one of our lions here does like details too, but it's more about big picture thinking. Lions think in win-lose terms, period. Win, is this gonna, we're gonna win this, we're gonna lose this. So lions have a very competitive nature, and again, it's just about accomplishing the task. So,
I will comment on that really quick before you go on to the next one. So, I mean, as a lion, one of the things that, Leaf and I are both lions, and one of the things that, you know, Leaf and I have learned most of the time we're good at, we've learned over the years to be better at this. But we used to, you know, the way we would approach each other, we'd butt heads a lot, right? Because if you roar at a lion's going to roar back, right? So yep. We've had to learn to approach ourselves from a standpoint of really seeking to understand, because if we roar, basically it goes to the point where you made, Dave, which is it challenges our ego. Because I also, you know, part of a lion yep. is typically, not always, but oftentimes part of a lion is they're working really hard for success, and they're trying to do the right thing and in the best interest of people. But so sometimes when you approach a lion and you're challenging that, depending on the way you approach them, they might make the assumption or make the leap, similar to a monkey saying if you don't like their shirt, how you challenging their entire being. A lion, if you don't approach them in the right way, they're going to think you're challenging their ethics, their intent, their work ethic, just the way they work and the effort they're putting into it. So it's about trying to understand that and approaching it. So Leaf and I have really had to work hard on that over the years, in particular. And we've gotten so much better at it, and our communication is so much more effective, as opposed to butting heads. Then we have to cool down, and then we actually have effective conversation. So, yeah, I would concur with those things, Day, and it's definitely something that is a constant effort to work to communicate effectively.
Another thing I noticed with lions, Nathan, is that because lions are very often in a leadership role at an organization, sometimes they're charged with tasks that take them out of the office, meeting with community leaders, traveling, et cetera, et cetera. So sometimes when they come back into the office in their lion-like way, their heads full of ideas, and sometimes I've used the term, remember the Tasmanian devil and those old Bugs Bunny cartoons? Sometimes lions come back into the office and they're just like spinning through the office, creating havoc and leaving a sort of a trail of destruction in their wake as people are sort of get upended in whatever their daily tasks are. You can see how a lion might view a turtle. I mean, these are meant to be amusing slides, but Make a Difference is designed to help overcome some of these perceptions. And then you can see how a turtle might view a lion. Again, meant to be somewhat amusing. But I'll tell you, here at Mytech, using these tools has been very successful. There's a number of ways we've done here to integrate the whole thing into our own organization. We've made it part of our onboarding process. We have some training that we do when we hire new staff so that they know that this is a part of our culture right from the very start. I use the term renew our vows. What I mean by that is we do about every quarter or so, we get everybody into a room and we just kind of review the traits of our animal types again and just make sure we're all reminded about the basics of Make a Difference. And we do a lot of client outreach like this right now. We love to talk about this with our clients and with our peers, and we integrate the language, like Nathan just said, in his own relationship. We also integrate that language into our office environment here too. So it's not, we all have stuffed animals at each of our desks indicating what animal type we are. People are really proud of it. It's not unusual at all to hear someone say, oh, that's so-and-so's camel talking, or, oh, you're a monkey, no wonder you're laughing. It happens all the time, and people love to integrate it into the day-to-day communication. Just some quick, this is the test that we give our own staff. There's a pamphlet that I make part of my presentation, and in the pamphlet, if you quickly look, there's a list of 20 questions over there on the left, and it just asks you to check one of the boxes as to what you think you are, and the result is a closer view of it. The result is there's some mechanics to figure out which checks mean what, but the result is it gives you a look at what animal type you are. And there's some photos of some of our staff and the animals that we have here in our business. We literally are so serious about the onboarding and working the concepts of Make a Difference into our organization. We've written it into our process. This is just a sample. I'm sure this has been altered since I took a snapshot of this, but this is just a quick view of how we make it an official part of our day-to-day operation. I've done this for other peers. There's a company down in Cincinnati. I went down and trained them. That's what this slide is. Whenever they hire new people, you can see that's me up on the projector there. I did some recorded presentations for each of the animal types so that when they hire new people, they make it part of their onboarding process. And I think that's it. I guess my offer to anybody who is interested is if you'd like me to come speak to you or your leadership team or any organization that you're a part of, I can tell you that I love the outreach part of this, and I'd be very happy to come talk to your group if you'd like me to.
Yeah, and Dave, if I may amend that, is that in a couple of different ways, is one, either stopping by, if you ever come to any of our office in New Brighton in the Twin Cities or in Lakewood in Denver, in the Denver area, you'll see some of the ways in which this is integrated and might give you ideas if this is something you're considering for your own organization. And even coming up next Thursday, if you're in Denver, we are having an open house at our Denver office. We just renovated our office space, and you'll see, we'd love to have you next Thursday evening and at the Lakewood office, and you'd have a good opportunity to see and talk to the staff about how they've used it as well. So just to augment that day, since I know that open house is coming up, and I always love to have you stop by our offices and actually be happy to have you just candidly ask any of our staff that have it. I mean, because they'll integrate. I like some of the integration. For example, we have people that are camel and turtles, so they'll call themselves commertals. One of the folks in our office, and then they'll have pictures with a camel and a turtle shell. And one of our turtles that we have in our office, her last name is Fox, and so actually a picture on her desk is a fox in a turtle shell because she's a turtle. So like, there's just fun ways in which the staff have kind of learned to own this and use it in their day-to-day world. So we love to share this with you, and Dave is excellent, well versed in this content, so that's our offer. And any final words, Dave, before we sign off?
No, just I love to talk about this. That's the monkey and me, and if anybody wants even just a phone call, please feel free to reach out, and I would love to entertain a conversation. Thank you for listening, everybody.
And if you have any questions, we'll answer them offline. But thank you much, everybody, and have a great day.